Hello, and welcome to the Career Hive. If I'm correct, this is episode number two. And yeah, really exciting. Hopefully, you enjoyed some of the snippets from episode number one. If you got to watch it, thank you very, very much. And we'll have a new YouTube channel up and running. So hopefully, we can add that to the end of this podcast and you'll be able to kind of follow us going forward. So, hey, let's talk about National Apprenticeship Week. How was that, everybody? Here at MyPam, fairly busy. We spent the week obviously tracking and looking at what's happening around the apprenticeship landscape, early careers being our passion, our focus, looking at our platform and how we can kind of support what's going to be happening in the future National Apprenticeships Week, how we can support existing organizations to look at what they're doing, and how we can incorporate all that onto the platform as well. So we're really excited about a lot of stuff that we've been getting up to here. So, hey, let's talk about National Apprenticeship Week. So, why is it important, and what is National Apprenticeship all about? Well, for us, and I'll say this to anybody, National Apprenticeship Week has importance around the fact that this is an opportunity to kind of review successes and celebrate those successes. So really go out there and talk about whether you're an organization with a fantastic apprenticeship program, and we'll highlight some of those to the podcast. If you're a young person looking for an apprenticeship, this week is focused on everything about apprenticeships. I think the whole world, in terms of the UK market space, is in that kind of, this is what National Apprenticeship Week is all about. That's why it's important. I think it's so crucial to have a week that's purely dedicated to something that is truly fantastic. As I've said to anybody who knows me, I'm a great believer that there is no right or wrong way. Whether you go to uni or decide to take an apprenticeship, both of those are truly fulfilling roles or routes to take, and they all have different end games. I think sometimes we get lost in that, which one's better than the other. However, in reality, we need things like National Apprenticeship Week to really kind of push forward what a wonderful opportunity there is for someone to gain a qualification, gain work experience, and still earn at the same time. And yes, if for you, university isn't something that's exciting, it's good to know that you have an option that is just as good as going to university in terms of the qualification you end up with, and if anything, the experience you end up with at the end of it. So I think that's why National Apprenticeship Week is really, really important. So it's about celebrating those successes. It's about whether it's graduation ceremonies that are being taking place in some exciting organizations, whether it's organizations talking about their fantastic apprenticeship programs they've got for schools, for colleges and universities, to talk about the great apprenticeship programs that they're running. I think that's really, really exciting. I said it raises that awareness, so we can talk about things that still need to be reinforced. Right? So what does Apprenticeship Levy mean for me as an organization? How do I access this fantastic talent pool, and how do I embed apprenticeships into my workforce planning strategy? So all those things for me are the very, very big reason why we are truly celebrating Apprenticeship Week. So there we go. And one of the other things, I was actually thinking about this as well, because this just kind of come into my mind as outside of the prep we're doing. But the activities and the awareness that we do in National Apprenticeship Week really kind of drives the engagement for over the next 12 months, right? So if you're a young person and you're thinking, yeah, I'm in year 10, and yes, next year I've got my GCSEs, but I'm still not sure if I want to do A levels and what do they look like. This conversation starting now starts to drive that mindset to think, okay, what else is out there for me? The same thing if you're in your first year of A levels and you're thinking, well, next year actually I'm going to do my A levels. I'm so excited and I'm looking forward to it, but apprenticeships are not for me. Well, guess what? National Apprenticeship Week and the resources and the activity and the awareness of what's going to be happening starts to help you at least start to map what that looks like and start to have those early stage conversations. So, that's one of the kind of the big things that kind of fit in there for me. So, hey, what was really exciting? So my team said to me, look, there's a lot of interesting news happening in the apprenticeship space, right? So if you look at it, 3/4 of young people would consider apprenticeships. Wow, how exciting. I remember probably when I started being involved in apprenticeships and early careers, and that would have been probably 2011, 2010, so nearly kind of 10, 11 years ago. Apprenticeships were still kind of seen. I would have conversations that people would go, isn't that the old YTS scheme? And you're thinking, oh, no, it's not. But look, so to think that 3/4 of young people would consider apprenticeship. I think that's an immense progress and something we have got to celebrate. We were looking at some of the things happening in terms of additional industry news. Gatwick Airport. I didn't realize this. I know this is a Heathrow, right? But it's, I guess, the same thing that's happening. But Big Jet TV had 200,000 views, and I. One of the kind of the people behind Jet TV were being interviewed on Greg James's Radio One show. I think this morning, and I thought in myself as I was listening to it briefly in the car, wow, how inspirational that what you're going to be for a young person thinking about aviation as a career, right? So imagine you're watching that pilot, the skill that takes place for that airplane to come into land and the whole drama behind it. But then you think about air traffic control and the challenges that they've got in terms of trying to attract younger talent into the industry. What does that mean watching something like that? Because not all of us can be a pilot, right? But how important is the person in that tower who's basically making sure that plane's coming into land? Oh no, it's aborted that landing. Well, what are we going to do next? So there's a ground crew who have to be prepared for the worst case scenario. Imagine, the cabin crew that are involved in terms of helping everybody else on that flight just be calm and be happy. It's just watching that alone. I thought, wow, this is a wonderful moment in a piece of content that can be used to just inspire that next generation, right? Let's start. We started that kind of viewing of 200,000 people viewing it. That conversation happening in pubs and restaurants and houses and all that type of stuff, and how that kind of trickles down into schools. And that is what I mean. That's the power of when you start to showcase careers, and then you start to look at, well, how do I get into that industry? And you kind of go, well, okay, there's this route to go into university, but guess what? We got apprenticeships open, and therefore we picked up something here. Gatwick has opened applications for its highly acclaimed engineering apprenticeship program. How exciting is that on the back of what was happening there? There's other kind of additional pieces of information happening. So we were doing some digging around, and the one that probably stuck out to me a lot, because I was kind of part of the early concept conversations with this, and I thought when we went to the meetings that were happening, it was a really bold idea, I guess, and it was something that I thought, wow, if we can pull this off in the region and this can really come into fruition, then this is going to make a massive difference. So it's great to kind of say, if I'm correct, it must be, if my head is, if my maths is right. So this is probably about 3.5, 4 years, probably a little bit longer in between that gap now between when we had this conversation, and that is the West Midlands company, basically, company with the mayor basically made a decision that they wanted to, West Midlands Combined Authority, let's get that right. So I was having to remember, we had so many meetings, and I remember having this meeting, and the idea behind that was that the government had announced that you could now do an apprenticeship levy transfer. So that basically means that if I'm a company and I have a levy pot and I'm unable to use that levy pot, and I want to then distribute that levy pot into my supply chain, so that the smaller organizations who don't have as much as I have in my levy pot can then use that to attract and recruit and develop their existing staff or recruit new apprentices in. Well, I'm more than happy to share that, because there's a USP for me in that great, I'm promoting apprenticeships, my levy is being used, but I'm strengthening my supply chain. So that was really exciting. And I remember the idea was that, look, we've got some really big players in the West Midlands market overall of organizations, and if we can get these organizations to kind of pledge that they're going to donate their levy, then this could be a really exciting idea. And my role in that part was I was working for an apprenticeship provider, and we were all part of that kind of conversation that was happening around, okay, how can this be rolled out and how can this happen? So it was with great excitement when I kind of followed the mayor of Birmingham, the West Midlands mayor, Andy Street, and he talked about the fact that the transfer fund, I've got to read this out, has had £32 million donated. That's £32 million, and more than 2,200 apprentices on the back of that. Now, wow, that was really exciting. And I think for me, that was a really exciting piece of news. So, I thought, we can talk about all the big things happening and all the amazing things happening in different regions. But hey, we're a West Midlands based company. Our roots are in the West Midlands. We think that, it's the best place to be. And we understand the challenges that are affecting the West Midlands as much as they're affecting London, the Southwest, and the wider UK market. But this was a really good piece, right? So, this was a big piece of industry news for us. So, again, if you're in the West Midlands and you're looking for apprenticeship opportunities, how exciting can that be? And there's numerous other kind of opportunities coming into play. So, some of them we looked at, and I'm quite happy to kind of flag some of these, because we're going to talk about, those kind of organizations, hiring and what's going to be happening as well. So we'll add that as we go along. So, that kind of brought me into play to think, well, we've got £32 million donated through the West Midlands Levy transfer, which generated 2,200 apprentices. So, hey, in the National Apprenticeship Week, how about it's time we talk about what type of companies are hiring, right? So, if you look at the fact that there's over 250 different programs across 11 industries. That's 250 different programs, types of programs across 11 industries. So the opportunities for young people is truly vast, right? And there's some really exciting, huge companies that we were aware of. The news that came out probably a couple of months ago about Amazon. I think there's news about Royal Mail. We know that the likes of NHS are looking to do that. And I think, yes, those are really exciting companies. BT, we can name them all. These are organizations, Barclays, all these organizations are really keen to drive their apprenticeship programs, really bring in, whether it's internal candidates and get them onto apprenticeship programs, upskill their workforce, or go out and attract brand new, diverse talent into the organization. It's truly, truly exciting. However, what I wanted to do was kind of probably highlight some of the companies that I've come across on my journey. And I think, we'll try and do this every so often, where we talk about organizations that have kind of, I've been impressed with. And sometimes they don't necessarily get viewed and seen because they're not that brand of organization that we're looking at. Amazon, we're saying, Royal Mail, we're saying BT, these bigger playing organizations. But I want to give a big shout out to Tim Beasley at RPS Components. I mean, listen, this guy's doing a great job. I think when you look at the amount of apprentices they've kind of recruited, both internally in terms of upskilling and both externally bringing into the organization, I think it's an organization that's worth following in the kind of logistics space. And there's got so many different things happening, so many different roles, from data analysts to admin roles to engineering roles. I think it's really, really exciting with the wide range that's available. I want to make a big shout out to Claire Oliver at Troop Biowaters and Anders, a great engineering consulting company. Again, I remember spending some time with them talking about what their apprenticeship strategy is, and you're just feeling the essence and the passion for apprentices within that space. And talking to a couple of their apprentices in that organization, that particular event, it left a mark for me. So big shout to them. Congratulations on everything you're doing. If you go on their LinkedIn page, you can see some of the fantastic work they've been doing, including, if I'm correct, in the top 40, top 100 companies for really impactful apprenticeships or something like that. Really exciting, really exciting. The team at Welcome Break, I know Nicola Marshall, in terms of just using Apprenticeship Levy to not only kind of really build and upskill her team, but also look to use that across the whole Welcome group as well. I think that's a really kind of big shout around what they're doing. So again, that gives you a range of organizations that we're talking about. So they're not necessarily the biggest brands you hear about, but they're really established brands, right? They've got really strong track records. There's that DNA and fiber around what apprenticeships mean. I'm really excited as well because I think Birmingham 2022 Commonwealth Games, here we come. I know there's some exciting stuff happening there. Again, there's a number of apprenticeship roles across business admin, within the ticketing, venue department, procurement, workforce, etc. How exciting! Not only do you get to be part of a legacy in terms of what the legacy that the Commonwealth Games would leave and the impact you have on the city of Birmingham, but actually being part of something like that and how you can then take those skills, transfer them on the end of your apprenticeship, and whether you remain within that facility. But there's huge opportunities, as we said, in the West Midlands. So that's really, really exciting. You've got Barclays. We had Raise Ventures, who we're part of, and the founding team there, really keen, albeit in Northern Ireland, but they're really keen to kind of work out, well, how can we use and bring apprentices into our accelerator and work with some really exciting startups. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we've got a couple that we've kind of introduced to the organization, and hopefully, they'll be taken into consideration potentially for roles within that as well. And that's what I'm trying to say. When you look at that journey of an apprentice, and I think about all these companies, they're not, as I said, You're not going to run around and say, "Oh, RBS, who are they? Who are RS Components? Who are True Waters? Who's Venture, Raise Ventures, etc." But the opportunities and the network that you can get just by being part of these organizations, the clientele they work with, the track record they have, the presence they have in their respective industries, and how that starts to open up some of those opportunities. And it's important to kind of understand the value of what it means to be part of those organizations. Building on to another stage, we were talking about, when we kind of had this conversation about, okay, so, what's happening in the industry, which companies are hiring right now, what type of companies are out there, and what are they looking for? I thought, what, this is a really interesting subject, because sometimes I think when you're a young person or in that early career space, you kind of think, well, I don't have the experience to kind of apply for these roles. I don't have the inside knowledge of how these roles kind of go for. What is it they're looking for? And of course, look, there's common themes, right? There's that curiosity. They talk about motivation, the enthusiasm, the passion for what you're going to do, teamwork, interpersonal skills. All those things, I think, don't change, right? They are basically the DNA of any stage of an organization's seeking talent journey, if that's the right way to phrase it. So those things never change, right? But when we talk about early career talent, what is it that organizations are looking for? And all I would say this to you is, remember, if I was in that space, I say, let's look at our area of 16 to 25, right? If I was still in that space, it was only 12 months ago, I'm not joking. But if I was in that space with 16 to kind of that 24, 25 space, what is really exciting right now is that this is the time, right? There is a skill shortage across a numerous amount of organizations. We've already given that stat. There's 250 different programs across 11 industries. So the opportunities are there. However, there's a part that you have to play, because these organizations are not just going to land on your plate, and therefore, because we need people, we're just going to take people on board. There has to be a bit of input from yourself. So what I would say is, these organizations are looking for outside of the standard stuff, right? So I think if you're going to do anything, if you are going to be an apprentice, you have to be curious, right? Because remember, you are learning and you're applying what you're learning into the real world environment and vice versa. So that opportunity of being curious, that other thing of thinking, well, actually, you know what? I'm kind of doing this part of my module and this part of my learning, and I can identify opportunities in my organization where I can do a piece of work around this. Be curious around, okay, how can I implement that? What changes can I make? So that's absolutely key. I think there's definitely the motivation piece is so important, because remember, this is not a I'm in uni, so I'm there 5-6 days a week. Most of apprenticeship programs, yes, you do get a day a week at college, and you do get your 20% off the job. But it's really important, because you have to be motivated, right? Because there's a lot of hard work, right? There's a lot of hard work that you have to take responsibility for. And that is why it's no different from uni, right? Because the same amount of work you've got to put in, you've got to do that at the same time as juggling your job. So the enthusiasm and that piece comes into play. But what I would say as well is really do some research, right? Organizations and companies want you to have a real kind of understanding of, well, what does that opportunity look like within their company. Really understand where they're going, understand their strategy, understand their challenges. And if you're interested, whether it's marketing, whether it's business development, whether it's admin, engineering, whatever that looks like. The thing about where we are in the space we are right now is there's a wide range of content. So what companies are looking for from that persona is that ability to go out there and dig information, find information about that organization, and try and attach it to the things that make you interested in that particular program. Understand what that apprenticeship program looks like. And I'll give you an example. And I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that we're going to have at least one of the two apprentices that I'm talking to right now, and we've kind of just hopefully got them some interviews. And in essence, what we were talking about there is that these are two really bright A-level students who kind of one's grammar school, started state school, went to grammar school, so has that capacity, if that makes sense. And she's made a decision, for her apprenticeships isn't what she wants. So apprenticeship is what she wants to do. Uni is not what she wants to do. However, when I sat down, we were talking to her, and she basically said, "Look, for me, I want to go into management consulting, right? So I'm really excited about management consulting." And she's done her research, so she's identified organizations who specialize in that area, and she's made a point of just kind of aligning her skill set. She's chosen her subjects based on that, and she's really kind of done everything she can to really understand, well, what does a management consultant role look like? And she's identified that she loves. And the reason why she found this is because she loves the legal, she loves finance, she loves the marketing piece and all that type of stuff. So she loves being part of that. She's really, really good. She's got a great kind of personality there. Actually, when I sat in front of her and we were putting in front of some roles, doing it the traditional way before the MyPam way, you could tell that this is someone who has that kind of persona, right? Because she's interested in it, she's done her research, she's kind of matched herself to where her current interest levels are. And she knows that in this journey, that career pathway will change, and she may end up on, KPMG, or she could end up in a VC company, or she could actually end up being an entrepreneur. She has got that whole kind of opportunity open to her. But the most important thing is that she's done her research. She's been curious about every single a potential pathway to go on there. She has that motivation. I mean, she has applied for probably 12 or 15 different apprenticeship programs, and this is in a backdrop of a school that their driver is to push them to university, right? Which is that's what they're all about. But this is someone who's kind of gone and said, I'll still do my university application because I don't want to be left short-handed. But actually, I'm going to make sure that by the time I complete my A levels, I am going to be in a position to be in an apprenticeship. And she's got some really exciting opportunities. And we're going to bring her on the show, and we're going to talk to her about what they're looking for there. So what I say to everybody there is, look, there's a persona. Is there? No. What it is that I'm interested in becoming an apprenticeship. That's what I want to do. I'm curious about what that looks like. So what does a career pathway look like? What are the different apprenticeship programs available? What is out there in terms of organizations? What's my motivation? Why am I doing this? Really then showing that motivation around, this is why I want to get in this career, and be motivated to know that when I start this apprenticeship program, there's a level of expectation that needs to come into that. And funny enough, everything else kind of follows. That enthusiasm, that kind of that passion, that persistence, and all that time to come into play. And things like teamwork and interpersonal skills, we'll pick those up, right? We know how to do those. Those are soft skills, and we'll kind of find what they look like. So that's the really kind of exciting things that I believe are kind of happening out there. That's the National Apprenticeship companies, what they're looking to do, who they're looking to hire. I would say to anybody, look, National Apprenticeship Week, as I said, is a huge opportunity to build the kind of engagement, raise the awareness, really start to push apprenticeship opportunities for the next 12 months. So listen, there are numerous various apprenticeship resources available to help you further, to really understand how an apprenticeship can help you as an apprentice, as a young person looking to go into that, and also for an organization looking to bring that apprenticeship on board. And we've got opportunities available across the whole country. So, we highlighted one area in the West Midlands in terms of what they're doing with the kind of the Levy transfer. I would say, I think I read something that was happening in Shropshire, where they've actually created a dedicated kind of apprenticeship hub. So there's loads of stuff happening. So I would say to anyone else is, look at locally what's happening, and then you kind of develop that on a national basis and have both of those sort of strategies going along. What I would say, this is a really, really exciting time, as we said. So let's maximize those opportunities. Let's leverage the attention that National Apprenticeship Week has brought through. Get onto LinkedIn, reach out to some of these exciting companies. Introduce yourself, look out for those careers. Well, what apprenticeship offerings are there? Equip yourself with the understanding of what apprenticeship programs look like and what an apprenticeship pathway could be. So look, whether you want to say, what was Apprenticeship Week? We kind of looked at it and thought it was a good week. I think it'll get better because I'm always expecting more. But I say it's a good week because we look at where we've been in the last 2.5 years to where we're going now. I think that next year is going to be even bigger and massive as a whole thing. So, I think there's a real opportunity there to do so. I love the fact that the whole tagline about what we was building future. I think there's some really exciting opportunities coming across with some really exciting organizations. I said, everyone, yes, it's all about identifying what best opportunities lie for you. So yeah, in overall, I say National Apprenticeship Week from us at MyPam, we'll give it a B, probably even a B plus. Right? It's been a tough couple of years, but I love the engagement that's taken place. I love the opportunities that are out there, and I think next year is just going to be an even bigger year. So hey, thank you very very much for watching. Any questions, please feel free to follow us on our LinkedIn page. We've got Twitter, and we've got info at mypam.tech. So if you want to send me some information and ask questions, we're always open to that. But yeah, thank you very very much for listening, and listen, until next week, take care. Remember, it's all about inspiring aspirations, whether you're an organization or the young person, and apprenticeships definitely do that.